All right, this section is a little bit different than what we've been doing, but not terribly challenging. The first thing that we have to know and remind ourselves, and I'd like you to have this written in your notes, is do not line up decimals. Now, if you do, you can still get the right answer, but it will make your life a lot more difficult. Okay, so I'm trying to help you out. Do not line up your decimals here. Okay? I think it's also important to estimate once again before we start to tell us if we're way off. It's usually a good indicator. So I'm going to work on this problem up here on the top. We're going to ignore the one on the bottom for now. In order to do this problem, we are going to ignore the decimal places and write it down as 23 times 46, like this. Now, instead of writing down the decimal places and putting them in, we have to just count how many we had. Well, in this one, we had one number behind the decimal place. And this one, we had one number behind the decimal place. And if we add them together, that means our answer will have two decimal places. So now we're just going to multiply this out just like a regular problem. 3 times 6 is 18. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Put an X or a 0 here. That's 12 and 9. So now we just add it like we always have. Now, we take our number and we put our decimal place right there, and I have to move it 2 to the left. 1, 2. That means our decimal place is there. Do not start from the right and go this way. In this case, you would have the right answer, but normally it will not work. So that means our right answer is like this. Okay? Now, before you start, you could also estimate, and you could do 2 times 5, which is about 10. So our answer is pretty close to that. I like to estimate before I start, but you don't always have to. Now, adding and subtracting when we put in negatives, it really changed the way the problem functioned. This one actually doesn't. We can totally ignore the negative until the last step. If we had this problem, we would ignore the negative, we would do it exactly like we did just here, and then we get to the end number and say, should our answer be positive or negative? And in this case, it should be negative, so our answer just would have been 10.58. So positive and negative numbers do not change this method almost at all. Okay? So I'm going to do these two. Show you a couple more examples. So on this first one, I'm going to estimate before I start. It's 11 times a negative 2 about, which is around negative 22. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. In this problem, I'm not going to line up the decimals, and I'm going to ignore them. So I'm going to get 1, 1, 2. And I'm going to do 2, 4, 9. Now, this top one had 1 decimal place. This bottom one had 2. So our answer will have 3. Okay, so now I just multiply it out like normal. 2 times 9, that's 18. 1 times 9 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Same thing. So X there, I get 8, 4, and 4. Now I have to do 2 X's. That's 4, 2, and 2. And now I just add it up, which gives me 8, 8, 8, 7, and 2. Okay, and now I simply go, well, it's 3 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3, it's right there. So it's 27.888. And I look up, well, we have a positive times a negative, so my overall answer should be negative. And that's it. That's all you got to do. So one on the right, same concept. I'm going to ignore the negatives, go 64 and 81. 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place for a total of 2. 4 times 1 is 4. 6 times 1 is 6. It's 32. 48 plus 3 is 51. So that's 4, 8, 1, and 5. 2 decimal places, 1, 2. And my answer this time, negative, negative, should be positive. So it's 51.84. And boom, we're all done. That's it. I'd like you to try this one on your own. All right. So I get 13 and 29. 1 decimal place for a total of 2. So I get 27, 11, 6 and 2, 7, 7 and 3. Move the decimal place twice. 1, 2. And my answer should be negative. Positive times a negative. So I get negative 3.77. That's what I got. Okay. Assignments listed on the website. If you have any questions, please ask me.